What does Family Guy, The Simpsons have in common with such shows such as Peppa Pig and Bob the Builder? Why an Australian breed of dog? A little bit of an unusual crossover. How? Why? Well, let's find out. Before we begin, make sure you're subscribed so I can convince my parents that talking about tunes can be a viable career. Well, hopefully I need to first hit my million-K milestone, so just do that if you could, please. Be sure to spread the word to get some missing media found.
We'll go and see the cracks again someday.
The Emmy-winning series of Bluey, which the conception for the series was created by Joe Brumm. His inspiration for creating the programme. Enchanted on the success of Peppa Pig while being a British show, it had spread around globally around the world. Joe Brumm had aspirations of essentially creating an Australian version of Peppa Pig, but he didn't want his child's show to be learning ABCs or 1, 2, 3, taking note of what his own young daughters would watch and be interested in. He found play to be a good topic, as he felt that a show being all about play would be a direct way to speak to kids. And there was a lack of a market of children's shows making play the essential aspect.
And I wanted that variation, visuals within families that Peppa Pig has. And so dogs just felt like, you know what, I can't pinch Peppa Pig's model. So if I stick with dogs, there's enough variation within breeds to get that.
So what made you pick dogs rather than cats?
Well, I'm a dog person.
The Australian heeler breed were chosen to base the family on, with the main character, Bluey, being specifically based on the blue heeler to look visually distinct in the show. With the bluish appearance of the breed, Joe teamed up with Daley Pearson, creating the show under his company, Ludo Studios. Both men drew inspiration of playing with their own kids of what the show could be like, intending the show to be viewed by everybody in the family, injecting in some quick witty dialogue on akin to The Simpsons.
I'm not taking advice from a cartoon dog.
That's when the show started tinkering with the fourth wall. It was definitely, there's little drops of Simpsons there.
By 2016, Joe Brumm created a 1-minute test animation in his own spare time, featuring Bandit pushing Bluey on a swing. When Bandit gets distracted on his phone, he pushes Bluey so hard that she ends up going upside down on the swing. When it was being pitched around to TV executives, they were very unsure on the project. The issue was they were unsure if the animation was meant to be on the same level as either Peppa Pig or Family Guy. The naive creative team would say both, with the juxtaposition of both shows being polar opposites. Most of the time, the executives would give a pardon on the project. The team who intended for the show to be appealing for both audiences failed to find a middle ground. Thus, it was difficult to sell and figure out as to what platform it really belonged on. But at Australia's ABC, Michael Carrington did see potential within the concept and was willing to lend them a hand. ABC laid down the money to allow the creative team to make a full episode. They reformatted the logistics of the show, where unlike the short test animation, where it featured slapstick physics, the episode was far more grounded, where a family could easily see themselves playing out the same events within the episode. The crew still intended for the series to be universally enjoyed by anybody of any age, but set the goal of making it within the preschool market. So now it was much more clearer for any interested executives as to where the show exactly belonged to.
It has a market, it has the investors you're aiming for, so you've got to know the types of shows that it's and the market that it's going to have to hit.
The pilot was completed in 2017 and was fully picked up by ABC, additionally being co-financed by the BBC. Later, the pilot episode would be cleaned up and would become the show's 6th episode, titled Weekend. There were many aspects that were made within a tight family unit, quite literally in fact. Joe's mum was the voice of Nana, and his younger brother Dan was not only the voice of Uncle Stripe, but a sound engineer for the show. When the programme was gaining traction in its native Australia, Disney was keenly interested to distribute the show around the world. However, as typical for preschool shows, they're usually redubbed overseas to have a much more Western sounding cast. But as the conversations popped up for a possible redub, the makers were firm that a recasting wouldn't be necessary, and that it may have detracted the inherent charm of the show.
Like, we would happily sell out, you know, we would say, of course, if it worked, but it just didn't work. It's an Australian show, and Disney were the broadcaster who really supported it. The person who founded at Disney was actually from Brisbane, so I think there's been a lot of serendipitous luck.
The show did have minor edits upon overseas, but at least in comparison to prior shows in the past in the same boat, the edits were minimal and unoffensive as they were originally seen.
The toilet humour, or as Kiki just said in the comments, dunny humour.
Can you say toilet instead of dunny, please?
Pretty amazing reading comments online that are saying, don't change the Australianness of it.
In joke, you've got to watch the show.
You've got to watch the show for that, parents.
The amount of Australian franchises that have been able to break out globally have been few and far in between, with children's media from the country perhaps only breaking out internationally once every generation.
There are lots of great shows that get made all around the world, but for something from Australia to conquer the world is something that I think the whole country is proud of.
Resonating with parents with its adult humour, not necessarily alluding to the crudeness of the adult world.
If you were a gentleman, you'd close your eyes.
But with the parents getting caught up in the playful antics, illustrating the silly situations that most adults would be embarrassed to be caught in.
Look, this all feels a bit silly.
I had two daughters about the same age as Bingo and Bluey, so what was happening in the scripts is pretty much what's happening in my life. So much so that my wife Lucy said to me, "Are you giving them story ideas?" I said, "No, it's hard to believe, but I'm not."
Its appraisal from its mature viewers stems from the show's fearlessness of unapologetically portraying a family.
This is what it is. This is my life. The kids do come in the toilet with me. I do have to do bush weeds. It's almost like the more personal you go, the more universal it becomes.
I don't think you are the best dad in the world.
Yeah, you're right, Bluey. I'm not.
So you don't know where I was before I was born?
Nah, you'll have to figure that out for yourself.
The kids naturally have mood swings, being happy and playful 1 minute, from being absolutely devastated, with the parents' reassurance not being condescending or patronising, but are open and sincere, treating every situation on the same level as the other, regardless on how minimalistic some of the problems may seem. The show portrays a realistic, not a perfect family, but an inspiring one.
You know how I said you're the most special kid in the world?
Yes.
Well, you're not.
The show has additionally become popular within the animation community, alongside the furry fandom.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of John Luke fan fiction online.
The Bluey fandom have been very intrigued as to what the original two pilots were like. The 2017 pilot, about 1 minute and 18 seconds, have been released, thanks to the Twitter account of ABC Brisbane, and thanks to a news article, we have 3 additional screenshots. The music used for the intro with a song Pinball Les, with a kid dubbed over it, likely being a temp track. Aside from that, from what we can see, the same cast, storyline beats were used in the final episode. The differences between the two are minimalistic. A slight pause in one of Bandit's lines.
How many games should we play?
This
Whoa! Okay, that's doable.
I've got a letter for you.
How many games should we play?
This many.
Whoa! Okay, that's doable.
Chili has an alternate take of dialogue.
Okay, I'm just popping out for a text. I'll see you later.
I'm just going for a run.
I'll see you later.
See you, Mum.
And the animation is only slightly less refrain in comparison to the broadcast episode. The models and movements are exactly the same, with only minor imperfections, such as when they blink, the characters' eyes are reduced to upside down U's, and Bandit and Chili have slightly different fur patterns. In fact, judging this one screenshot, there seems to be imperfections of Chili's fur patterns during the duration of the short. Fans of the show have noticed even within the final broadcast episode, the character puppets are just off model in comparison to the rest of the series. The biggest difference between the two are the background, furniture and props, all of which were completely redesigned for the final show. It's safe to say that the pilot episode has already seen an official release, in the form of the broadcast weekend, unless stated anywhere else or the original episode gets fully released. It's hard to see if there are any other major differences between the two. But as for the 1 minute test short, made back in 2016, that one in particular doesn't seem to be of a priority for the creator to get out there, stating in an interview as what played out in the animation you couldn't get away with doing on TV. There's no screenshots or even conceptual designs to give an idea as to what this animation could have looked like. It remains to be seen if either two of these pilots will ever see an official release. But given how young Bluey is, the third season has yet to broadcast at the time of recording. As time goes on, there may be more of a heightened interest of what the original Bluey could have looked like, and that may be enough to convince the creators to release it.